Thank you. Okay, so I'm going to turn this down.
Zoom. The purpose of this work session is to hear about the progress at Cloudcroft. I'm going to turn the agenda over to Adrian Widmer, who will introduce the speaker, and we'll go from there.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Mr. Chairman, Commissioners, Adrian Widmer, Interim Assistant Utilities Director. Thank you very much for participating today to get an update on the Village of Cloudcroft on their Pure Water Project. Eddie Livingston is the president of Livingston Associates. They're consulting engineers that are actually working on this particular project. And he was kind enough to say that he would be more than happy to fill you all in on what's going on with the Village of Cloudcroft, which is going to help us make determinations on your policies moving forward when it comes to potentially doing direct reuse. With that, I'm going to change it over to Eddie Livingston. Thank you.
All right, well, thank you very much, Ms. Widmer and Mr. Chairman. I'm happy to be here to talk about Cloudcroft. We'll have a presentation and then questions and answers after that. I think Cloudcroft, as many of you are familiar, has a permanent population of about 800 people. And Alma, if we could switch next slide, please. I'm going to forget that. It has a permanent population of about 800 residents, and that population soars to 2,000 to 3,000 seasonally and on large weekends and things like that. So it makes it kind of a challenge when trying to provide a water supply for that kind of population. Their current water demand is about 6 million gallons a month, and that's on a peak month. And that swells to about 10 million gallons per month on a peak as far as future water requirements go. So there's a substantial growth in there between current demands and what their future projected demands might be. And I don't know if we can advance that slide, please. That would be great. Water supply is provided through both groundwater wells and springs, and each one of those sources produces roughly half of each of the total water supply. The area is recharged through snowpack, and so that is really exclusively the only method of recharge to both the springs and the wells. And so from that standpoint, the aquifer, if you will, is very subjective to what happens in the winter, either previous or a few years previous, and it's very responsive to the level of snowpack that they either receive or don't receive, and so it can be highly variable in what ends up at their production. And let's see if we could back up just one slide, please. There we go. And the local aquifer, the way it's configured, has minimal storage. It's not a huge aquifer where they can store water for long periods of time. It really is almost seasonal. And by the end of the pumping season, the levels in the wells have reduced substantially, and even go into cavitation sometimes on heavy pumping season. And so historically, drought can and has reduced the water supply by more than 25%. And over the last decade, they have had to call in and have water trucked up to the village on a few occasions. And so they're very subject to drought conditions and what that will do to the water supply. And so the village has undertaken quite a program at looking for additional water supplies historically. And so whether that's drilling exploratory wells within the same area that their well field is, or going outside of the area, They've looked for wells there. They've looked at bringing water in from outside of the area and imported water that way. But nothing has yielded anything of substance when it comes to additional water supply. So there really just isn't any extra in the area for the village. And so the idea for the Pure Water project came in the early 2000s. It really was a vision of one of the commissioners there. And so she kind of coined the phrase, the Pure Water Project, which that acronym comes from the potable use of reclaimed or recycled water. And so that has become the name. And so the idea behind the Pure Water Project is to augment the potable water supply using advanced treated wastewater. And so what's nice about doing this is that the supply is very reliable because it's always there. It's very sustainable because it grows along with the population. And from an ownership standpoint, you already own the water and you don't need additional water rights and everything that goes along with trying to gain additional water rights. And so it's really a very good supply, a good source for additional water. And so that then became the primary goal of new water supply. And so since that time, then the village has been progressing in that project. So and so this type of project is classified as, and we'll get into this in more detail, but what's called direct potable reuse, or DPR, and that's the other reuse is called indirect potable reuse. And we'll get into a discussion a little bit on the differences there, but this is direct potable. It will be, once implemented, one of only 2, maybe 3 direct potable reuse projects in the country, and certainly the first in New Mexico. Going way back, EPA has issued guidelines on how to get into water reuse from a indirect, direct use. Using highly treated wastewater as a source is both supported by the American Water Works Association and the Water Environment Federation, as well as the Water Reuse Association and other industry groups like that. So it can be considered as good a supply as any natural water supply if it's properly treated and prepared. And so others have been doing this. Orange County Water District for years. City of San Diego is in the process of implementing that. Big Spring, Texas is a direct potable reuse project, really the first one online. El Paso, of course, has been doing indirect potable for years, since 1982, I believe. And then they're embarking on a direct potable, Rio Rancho with indirect and others. So it's starting to really gain hold now as a true supply. Next slide, please. So this graphic shows the current water production from both the well and the spring standpoint. And this graphic really represents the maximum available production for the village of Cloudcroft. They are now in a stage 1 water conservation mandate. And so they are producing all that they can through their water production facilities. And you can see that, about half of that is spring water, half of that's well water. The wells are used extensively during the peaking months. And like I mentioned, those can really pump down quite a bit by the end of the pumping season. So next slide, please. So this graphic shows the introduction of what the pure water would do to the village's water supply. And this assumes a fairly mild drought of only a 15% reduction in supplies, and what would happen if their largest well was out of service. So you can see, in order to just meet demands, about 30% of the water supply would come from the Pure Water project. So this really emphasizes, I think, the importance of adding this to their portfolio of water resources. And so without the Pure project, we would see that second tier graph there would be all that they could supply in this scenario, and they would be in some very restrictive water conservation and those kind of things. So they just wouldn't be able to really provide the water that the village needs in a situation like this. And this is not, this is a very highly likely scenario given the past. Next slide, please. So this graphic shows the future water supply with the augmentation from the Pure Water project. And this actually includes some additional wells. It would include rehabilitating their largest well and one well that was potentially identified outside of the village that still needs some investigation, but this would include that as well. So this really illustrates that the Pure Water augmentation is needed for the future growth of the village, just to maintain production and meet the future demands. And so this graphic doesn't really allow any drought and those kind of things. So it's highly critical. But you can see here also that it's about 30% of their total water supply. And so that again, all these were pointed out in various 40-year plans and the comprehensive plan, et cetera, as being the only available project to meet future demands. And we can see the importance of that in this graphic here. Next slide, please. So let's kind of take a look at the process flow in the Pure Water project and just kind of see how the whole thing puts together. So starting at the upper left-hand corner with the wells and the springs, water would come from the well and springs and come into a blending reservoir. From there, the water would be pumped through drinking water treatment, and we'll get into details on that, but it would receive standard drinking water treatment and then go to the community for use. And then the return wastewater flows would then come down, go through advanced wastewater treatment, and go further into advanced wastewater treatment. And then that water would then be stored in what's called an engineered storage buffer. Then that water would then come back into the blending reservoir to be, start the whole process over again. So it's this continuous use of the treated wastewater as it cycles back around. And so we'll kind of get into a little more details on this. So the project is divided into two phases. Phase one will use about 50,000 gallons a day, and phase two will use about 100,000 gallons a day of recycled wastewater. And it's worth noting that not all of the wastewater will be used in the Pure Water project. About half of it will. The other half will continue to be discharged into its current discharge location, which is just upstream of the Trestle Railroad Bridge, as you come right into Cloudcroft. So not all of it's being used, I guess, is the point right now. And there's a reason for that. Next slide, please. So this looks at the same diagram, but now we'll get into a little more detail on the treatment technologies used. So again, we start with the wells and the springs, and those flows are discharged into a 800,000 gallon covered and lined reservoir. Then that gets pumped to the drinking water treatment process, which consists of an ultrafiltration membrane treatment process, ultraviolet light disinfection, and granular activated carbon adsorption, chlorination, and then on to the community of Cloudcroft. From there, then the return wastewater flow is treated with a membrane bioreactor, which produces very, very high quality effluent and really conditions it for the next downstream process, which is the advanced water treatment process. And so from there, it goes into reverse osmosis membrane process for demineralization and others. Then it goes through a ultraviolet light and advanced oxidation process, and we'll get into some more detail on that, but for disinfection and other great things. And then chlorination. Other than that, RO permeate then, the treated RO permeate is stored in a 1 million gallon covered and lined reservoir. And then that is transferred to the 800,000 gallon blending reservoir to go back through the process again. So this just kind of gives an overview of what the treatment process is. And so this is designed for about a 50-50 blending ratio with the well and spring water and the RO permeate. That can be adjusted by the operator, but we wanted to maximize it out at a 50-50 reservoir, or a 50-50 ratio of blending. So next slide, please. So this is a map of the overall system, the map of Cloudcroft there to the left, and you can see we start at the wastewater treatment plant in the upper left-hand corner. So the MBR effluent is disinfected with monochloramine and then is pumped up to a water storage tank up on top of a hill there in Cloudcroft on the high points. Then from there, it flows by gravity all the way down Highway 82 to the ski area where the water production facilities are located. You can see that on the lower right-hand corner. It receives treatment and then gets pumped up the hill to the hilltop tanks, which are the first distribution water storage tanks. And then from there is distributed into the community. I do want to point out you can see that green line that goes from the water treatment plant back up the hill a ways to the Apache well. And that is one potential place to dispose of the reverse osmosis concentrate in a disposal well. There's some other alternatives that are being looked at, but that's just worth noting on this map here. But you can see that the water production facilities are right there by the Cloudcroft ski area. And so that's the overall layout of the system. I might also mention that the elevation difference between the tower tank and the water production facilities is such that the MBR effluent comes into the water treatment plant with about 200 pounds per square inch of pressure, which we then use for an operational standpoint. Okay, next slide, please. This is a little complicated, but this shows the water production facilities, and I'll just kind of give you a tour of it in this. And so we can start out with you see the green line, the recycled water from the wastewater treatment plant there on the left-hand side. So it goes into the tower tank and comes down and goes through what we're calling the advanced water treatment side of the plant, the reverse osmosis system, and the others. The RO permeate then goes into the 1 million gallon water storage reservoir, and the concentrate then is discharged. Out of the 1 million gallon water storage reservoir, then the water is pumped all the way over to the right-hand side of the graph, and you see a box there. It's the blending meter box, and that can meter out how much water from the RO permeate tank gets blended into the blending water reservoir. And then at the same time, you can blend in the amount of natural waters from the well and springs from the storage tank there. So this controls that 50-50 or 60-40 or 80-20, whatever that is, blending ratio that can be controlled by the operator. So then out of the blending reservoir, then the water is pumped into the drinking water treatment side of the plant and goes through the ultrafiltration system and the other treatment processes. And then the finished water then is pumped up into a 500,000 gallon finished water storage tank. One of the things you'll note coming out of the ultrafiltration system is a yellow line going to the bottom of the page, and that's the ultrafiltration backwash water, and that is stored in a 300,000 gallon open top water storage tank that can be used for firefighting and other beneficial uses that way. And next slide, please. So this is kind of a site map of what's currently existing there, and just to point out a few things that kind of matches the graph there, but you can see the 1 million gallon covered reservoir there. You can see the water treatment plant building, the 250,000 gallon natural water storage tank, the 300,000 gallon backwash storage tank with the open top, 500,000 gallon finished water storage tank, and the 800,000 gallon blending reservoir. And then one thing also to note, you can see the solar panels that are sitting out there. Those produce electricity that help offset the cost of the operations in the water treatment plant. And then the ski area is just off to the immediate left there in the diagram. Okay, next slide, please. This graphic shows in a little bit of detail the water treatment plant and the various treatment processes. And I wanted to make a couple of points out of some of these. So let's look at the advanced water treatment process that receives the MBR effluent or the recycled water. So from at the very top of the graph there on the left-hand side, it goes through the reverse osmosis process, and that provides some reduction in total dissolved solids and reduction in minerals. And that becomes very important because the wastewater effluent has higher level of minerals and salts than the natural water. And so not only does that provide the benefit of reducing the mineral content, but there's also some very good reduction in pathogens and things that we want to get rid of through the reverse osmosis system. So it is a barrier that we like to use, and it provides some real benefits there. And it's nice because it's driven by gravity pressure. So from an operational standpoint, there's not high pressure pumps and things like that. So that's a real savings. Then we go through the ultraviolet light and advanced oxidation. And so we inject hydrogen peroxide upstream of this very powerful, very high dose ultraviolet light. And that has a tremendous effect on trace organics, and it provides a tremendous disinfection credit as well. So that's a very important part of the treatment process. And then we disinfect that water and it goes to the storage tank. And then coming down from the blending reservoir there on the lower right-hand side, we get into the drinking water treatment process. And the first thing we do is go through an ultrafiltration, low pressure membrane process. And this has a lot of benefits. Not only does it reduce pathogens greatly, but it really provides another barrier to pathogens. And then from there, the ultraviolet light disinfection, the granular activated carbon, and then disinfection. And each one of these processes we call a barrier to pathogens. And so this is called a multi-barrier treatment process to really ensure public health through this whole process. Also, all of these treatment technologies, really with the exception of the UF, are known to reduce levels of the chemicals of concern, the emerging contaminants of concern that are unregulated, but that are present in very, very small amounts in wastewater. But each one of these processes has removal capabilities for that too. So there's a double benefit there. And so let's go to the next slide and we'll see really what all this shows. So I mentioned the water quality improvement. So under the current condition, I just showed two chemicals here, total dissolved solids and hardness, but you can see what the current natural waters are, 420 milligrams per liter of total dissolved solids and 340 hardness. So under phase one, those will be reduced to 329 and 263. And then under phase two, those will be reduced further to 273 and 215. And so this provides a real benefit to the customer in that a number of residents are using water softeners in their house to reduce that hardness. Well, this will help from that standpoint, and they might be able to either get rid of their water softeners altogether, or certainly cut down on salt usage and things like that. So there's real benefits from just that water quality standpoint. But the next thing is the pathogen reduction using what's called log reduction credits. And so what this does, so the main goal of the pure water treatment process is to make the water chemically safe and safe against pathogens. And so the pathogens that are really looked at in detail are virus, cryptosporidium, and giardia. And so the guidelines that the Environment Department has issued through their technical advisory group, we'll get into that in a minute, is that the process should reduce a 12 log of virus, a 10 log of cryptosporidium, and a 10 log of giardia. So what does that mean if you're not familiar with it? Well, a log reduction is a percentage reduction in these various pathogens. So 12 log reduction is 99 point and then 10 zeros behind it reduction. So that's 99.999999999. So cryptosporidium, same thing. 10 log reduction is 99 point and then 8 zeros behind it. So you have a total of 10 nines. Same with giardia. So that is a tremendous amount of reduction of these pathogens. Well, this is what's required, which already has built into it a tremendous amount of safety. But if you add up all of the log reduction credits of the entire pure treatment train, we end up with 21 log reduction of virus, 17.5 log reduction of crypto, and 19.5 log reduction of giardia. And so I've tried to represent that below, and I just run out of room. So that's a lot of zeros. So you have 99, and 19 nines behind it as a percent reduction. So so the margin of safety, even beyond what has been required or will be required, or what we're using as the guidelines. So we have 9 and 7.5 and 9.5 log reductions yet further. So when you look at a normal surface water treatment plant, typical waters, typically the log reduction might be 3 log, and in a worst case scenario with the worst source water on a river or a lake or something like that, you'd be at about 5 log in a standard water treatment plant. So we see that this provides tremendous, and this is the multi-barrier approach to public health that we talked about. Next slide, please. So the guidelines from the Environment Department have been, they contracted with the National Water Research Institute to develop potable reuse guidelines for the state. Their independent advisory panel came to Cloudcroft during 2014 to review the project and make specific recommendations in a separate report to the Environment Department. And that is what we're using what we started using going forward with the process. But at the same time, they published a final report for the state, recommended DPR general guidelines and operational requirements for New Mexico. And so this was presented to the Environment Department to give them help in developing their own potable reuse guidelines. And so That was a task for them to do, and they have not completed that task yet. So there aren't published guidelines from the Environment Department on this, and so we have defaulted to what the expert panel has recommended, and it appears that the review comments that we get also reflect these guidelines, and so I think everybody's on the same page from that standpoint. Next slide, please. So one of a series of the things that the Environment Department would like us to do prior to bringing the system online is operate a full scale, that's operating at design capacity, pilot study, or better, demonstration study for up to a year. So the purpose of doing that would be to look at all the operational requirements, to make sure the operators are comfortable operating the system, collect water samples to look at what the log reduction and the reductions out of each of these treatment processes are, and then look at some of these other non-regulated compounds. The problem for Cloudcroft is we don't have sort of the extra water, if you will, to treat and blend back at a 50-50 ratio, and then just let it go down, down the canyon. There really isn't any extra water that we would need for that blending to be able to do that, certainly at full scale. And so we are in discussion with the Environment Department on what can be done and still achieve the same goal, really, which is to look at the treatment processes and see how they're doing, and not necessarily look at the natural waters and see what that is like during the treatment process, because that's well established, that's well known. And so from a control standpoint within the plant, and how is the system set up, or will be set up, to make sure that no off-spec water, if you will, would get out into the system. So each one of the treatment processes that we talked about has its own assigned log removal credit, and has some operational constraints with regard to what the finished water should look like. And as long as the equipment individually is meeting those specs, then it is assigned the log removal value given to it. And then the log removal value for each of those is then added up. And as long as the sum total of all the equipment added meets this 12-10-10 number, then the water is within specifications. And if not, then the system has to be immediately shut down and then repaired or investigated, and those kind of things. So it's really about not only making sure the treatment processes are robust and reliable and can be operated with the operators, which they're asking for 2 level 4 water wastewaters to be out there, but a continuous monitoring program that always, in a continuous way, looks at the finished water to make sure that it's meeting at least this minimum 12-10-10. And if it is, then that can be brought into the system. So that's really their biggest and main concerns. The operational and maintenance cost will be updated. Water rates are being looked at and will be continued to look at through this pilot study, and to make sure that the village maintains the financial capacity to operate the system. Next slide, please. And this is the last slide. These are just a few photographs of the project in the upper left-hand corner. That small tan building is the upper level of the membrane bioreactor at the wastewater treatment plant. The existing plant is there in the foreground. On the far right-hand side is just sort of a view showing finished water tanks and the rest of the treatment facilities. And the lower right-hand corner is the reverse osmosis skid. In the center picture there is the ultrafiltration unit. And then that one in the lower left-hand corner just shows the water treatment plant there in the background on the left. And then the solar panels that were installed. So with that, I'd be happy to take any questions, Mr. Chairman.
Questions?
Mr. Chairman,
Councillor Sorg, go ahead.
thank you. I was wondering how this project and how Cloudcroft handles the state engineer's office, and then specifically with the discharge of water. Are they required, does Cloudcroft require discharging a certain amount of water?
Oh, that's a very good question. And luckily, the village is in a position with their wastewater discharge where that is not, a required discharge from the state engineer's standpoint. It's the village's water and it's unencumbered from any of that. So there really hasn't been, and we don't anticipate a need to involve the state engineer because there's not a water rights issue.
I see. My second question is, where did the funding come from for this whole system?
There's been a long trail and history of funding. The very first funding was provided through Governor Richardson's Water Innovation Fund when he developed that, looking for innovative projects in the state. And so that was the very first level of funding that the village received. And then from that, it's all been legislative appropriations. And they have one small loan, but other than that, it's been some capital outlay funding. And it's been, taken in sort of bits and chunks, I guess, throughout the project as a lot of these things go. So, we request funding and then you get a fraction of what you want. And then we take that, and you build what you can. And so that's kind of how it's sort of progressed along the way.
Yeah, I understand how that works. Thank you so much, Mr. Livingston. Where are you located?
I'm in Alamogordo, actually.
Oh, really? Not too far away.
Not too far away, no.
Thank you so much.
Yes, sir.
Okay, thank you. Commissioner Hardy and then Carl Clark.
Yes, I had two questions, really. I'm just curious. I noticed you use the ultraviolet light treatment, and that's commonly used. Is there any data that says how effective that is? Where I've seen it used, the water seems so opaque that I can't see how the ultraviolet gets in very deep and all, unless you're looking at some fairly clean and transparent water. And the second part of that question was, I noticed they never seem to use ozone as a treatment here. I know it's used in Europe, and of course it's used here in hot tubs a lot. The thing about that is at least it gets in depth. It's mixed in, where it would appear that often the UV is just hits the surface, and that's about all.
Thank you for the question. Very, very good questions. To your first one, yes, the clarity of the water from a turbidity standpoint is such that and this is starting at the effluent to the wastewater plant through the membrane bioreactor, which is really an ultrafiltration step in the activated sludge process. And so the very last step is to draw the effluent through submerged ultrafiltration membranes. That would same type of membrane or fiber that would be used in a water treatment plant. And so it produces turbidities in the MBR effluent like drinking water. And so right now, they've been running and producing water with with turbidities of less than 0.1 NTU, which, like I said, is a drinking water level turbidity. So very, very high quality water, which is why the MBR process was selected for their, for their wastewater treatment plant upgrade, is so that it would condition the water for the downstream processes like RO. So, and then we go through RO, and of course that, would remove any, certainly any remaining turbidity. And so the water going into that very powerful UV up front there is very, very clear, and we would maintain a UV transmittance of greater than 95%. And so yes, it's very effective at that. And then the second UV through the drinking water process is the same way, as it comes out of the blending reservoir, still very clean because it's blended with with the natural waters. And then coming out of the ultrafiltration system, which reduces turbidity down to less than 0.1 NTU or at 1.1 NTU. So the second question on ozone, actually ozone is a very widely used disinfection and oxidizing agent, and there are applications for ozone that you can use with the UV process. In that very first part, you can use UV ozone. There are other ones, and the guidelines that were given to the state actually list a number of different treatment technologies. So yeah, that's a very good question, and ozone is a very applicable technology for this.
Thank you.
Mr. Clark.
Thank you. Let me take off my screen here if I can. I don't know if you can all hear me now. I'm having a little trouble opening my screen here, but my name is Carl Clark. I am the Deputy Director, Environmental and Technical Support here with Las Cruces Utilities. I know that Councilor Solar had talked about where the money came from. What was the total cost for this system that you guys have it in full form? What was that number? Do you have that value?
I mean, I don't have the exact number, but I believe at last count they've received about $6.5 million worth of funding, something like that, for the entire project.
Okay, and then has the state EPA had any issue with any of your the wastewater coming off your RO system, and where you guys are disposing of that?
Well, that is one thing that I mentioned, the injection well that we were looking at. The other thing that we're looking, so there's two discharges, and they're both from these two units that you see here. One is the concentrate from the RO system. That's all the salts that get collected and are removed from the water. They get concentrated into one flow stream, which is about 25% of the total flow. And after we are operational, we're going to try to bring that down to maybe 15%. And then the backwash water from the ultrafiltration system, which is just drinking water level. So there's no elevated salts in that. So one thing that we are looking at is blending the two and using the water, the combined water, in a beneficial way in the area. So instead of discharging part of it down a well, the ski area is going through an expansion right now. And so we are investigating what it would take to use that as snowmaking in the winter, and then irrigation of the ski area, vegetation and things like that in the summertime and the balance. So the idea is to try to beneficially use all of the processes as much as possible. So that's being investigated. But to your question, yes, there will need to be a groundwater discharge permit issued for these discharges, and so we're looking at that now, and so we'll be requesting, as we go into the demonstration phase, a temporary discharge permit that would grant us hopefully this 12-month or whatever period it is to make the final analysis, I guess, and conclusions on the discharge.
Right, right. And so the 6.5 million, I'm assuming a large portion was subsidized, especially because you only have, at your peak, the 2,000 to 3,000 residents or users in that area. So what a huge cost to them. But what is the annual cost of operating the system? What is the impact to the end user, and what kind of cost increases did they see because of the reuse and the new
Sure.
system?
Yes, excellent question. And that's always, so a rate study is being performed now to do exactly that. And I think part of that will fully come about during and after the demonstration operation, when they can really tie down what the operational costs are going to be. So for sure, and I think everybody understands, the commission certainly understands that, all of the cheap water is gone. So, now you have to go further and things like that. So this will be more expensive than their typical water. I mean, everybody understands that. How much more is the big question. I think on the RO, we're saving a lot of money there because it's being operated under gravity flow, and typically RO, the expense is 60% of the cost to operate the RO is the electricity to run a high pressure pump. So, so it'll just be the chemicals at that, for that. And the rest of the equipment, we have fairly good data on the typical operating costs there. So again, that's a good question, and that's being studied right now. What we're trying to do also is offset the cost with other projects. So right now they're hauling their sludge away, and that's an expense of about $60,000 a year. And so they're currently in the process of reclaiming the biosolids and making compost out of that, which then can be used either for the residences or, spread out on the ski area for, growing the grasses there where they irrigate. So, so those kinds of savings will then be rolled back into the overall cost of water. So I don't think there's a question in anybody's mind that the water costs will go up, and there will likely be some level of rate increase. What that is, that's still yet to be determined.
Okay, excellent. I'm kind of shocked that you're using gravity through the RO when typically most RO membranes require a higher pressure, so you can have I guess a better cleanup and less rejection rate if you can increase the pressure. But yeah, that's interesting on the gravity aspect of that.
We're certainly lucky there, yes, and we'll be able to operate at the full. We come in at close to 200 pounds, and we're thinking that this will operate in closer to 150 or less, and so we have plenty of available head to drive the system. So we are lucky there.
Very good. That's all my questions. Thank you.
Just one more question, Chair.
Thank you.
Can,
Commissioner Sorg, wait just a sec.
what for?
Me.
Okay.
I will have a question, and then we'll start on the second round.
Okay.
I would like to have you speak to the public acceptance of the whole concept, and then tell us where you are in the process now. Are you built out and ready for your trial, or what?
Very good questions. The public involvement has been something that the village has been doing sort of ongoing from really the very beginning. I mean, it's talked about at many commission meetings. They've had specific workshops and meetings. And I think what they would like to do is, once the demonstration project gets underway, where the system is actually operational, then they would like to start holding tours of the treatment plants, holding taste tests and these kind of things to really involve the public that way. So And then that's when they're really going to be pushing the brochures and all these kind of things. But they took a survey a number of years ago, and at least with all the businesses along Borough Avenue there and others, they were all in favor of the project because they just went through a period of drought at the time the survey was taken. And so, they know what the impact to the businesses are if they have to shut down because of lack of water or whatever. So really that survey showed that at least the business community was very much in favor of it. They've had some comments, and people are just really kind of unaware of what's all involved in the treatment processes and things like that. So I think once the demonstration gets to the point where it can be operational, I think that they'll really be pushing hard on the public involvement part of it. One interesting kind of note is there's a craft beer makers alliance, and they have made beer out of the advanced treated water. And you can find these at a lot of these different industry shows, whether it's AWWA or Water Environment Federation, Water Reuse. They'll be there, and you can test it and things like that. But they have funny names like Sludge Ale, and but they have created a portable trailer that others have used and invited them, and it's really been instrumental in a lot of the public meetings and public involvement and things like that. There seems to be a lot of trust in the brewmaster, and so if they say you can make great beer out of it and they can taste it, and it's won a lot of taste contests, for craft brew, when they find out that it's made using recycled water. But and then to your second question on where we're at construction wise, all the main facilities have been constructed. They're with the review of the Environment Department, and what the expert panel had requested is really adding some additional monitoring points and some instrumentation, and then integrating a large SCADA system or control system that would then take and add up all these log removal credits to give the magic number of 12-10-10 coming out. And so it's these kind of things that still will be constructed, and we hope that all of that gets finished up here this spring, summer, fall, so that we can start the demonstration within that time frame.
Okay, thank you. Commissioner Sorg.
Yes, thank you. Just a question about the reverse osmosis wastewater and the ultrafiltration discharge. Can that be used for firefighting?
Absolutely, yes. And that was one of the very first uses that they requested. And so when that 300,000 gallon tank was built, it was built purposely without a roof on it, so that a helicopter could come in with a bag and dip and take firefighting water out of it. And so yes, absolutely.
Is it connected to the city fire hydrants?
It's so far away that pumping it back up for that would be quite a trick. But they have fill stations, or they will have fill stations, and a fire truck, pumper truck connections on the tank and things like that. So they can fill from that standpoint too. So yes,
okay.
Very
Thank
good
you.
Observation. Yes.
Okay, other questions? Seeing none, this has been a really good session. Mr. Livingston, thank you so much for the time. We will look
Pleasure.
forward to a site visit and a taste test, and perhaps a little beer on the side.
Absolutely. We will invite you down. No question about that. Thank you for having me.
Okay, I make it about 8 minutes until 3. The regular commission meeting can begin immediately after this thing concludes. So even though we're scattered, I'm going to give us a few minutes and ask everyone to be back in front of the cameras and microphones at 3 o'clock straight up to begin the regular meeting. Regular meeting of the Las Cruces Board of Commissioners to order. First of all, we need to recite some guidance from the state, considering that we are operating remotely. We need to remember that need to announce the names of those members of the public body that are participating. As those members speak, they must identify themselves whenever they do speak. And members of the public are afforded remote access through a web link. If the audio or the video of this proceeding is interrupted, I need to suspend discussion until that link is restored, and all votes will be by roll call. In our case, they always are, so that's no extra burden. Now, I can't see who all is here. I do know that we have a quorum. And so just to begin, I'm going to ask who is here. Commissioner Archuleta?
I'm here.
Commissioner Bencomo?
I'm here.
Commissioner Carmichael?
I'm here.
Commissioner Hardy?
I'm here.
Commissioner Johnson?
I'm here.
Commissioner Sorg?
Yes, sir.
And the chair, William Little. So we have a full quorum. And we do have the public link established.
Yes, sir. This is Alma Ruiz, Office Manager Senior for the Utilities Department. We have currently 5 attendees.
Thank you so much. All right. The first order of business is the acceptance of the agenda. And I have a motion to accept.
Commissioner
Johnson,
so
motion
moved.
to accept.
I'm sorry, there were too many of you.
Commissioner Hardy, motion to accept.
Thank you. And a second.
Commissioner Johnson, second.
Thank you. Are there any additions or corrections to the agenda? Hearing none. Ready for a vote. Vice Chair Archuleta,
Aye.
Commissioner Bencomo,
Yes.
Commissioner Carmichael,
Yes.
Commissioner Hardy,
Yes.
Commissioner Johnson,
Aye.
Commissioner Sorg,
Yes.
and the chair, yes. Okay. The next order of business is public participation. Have there been any email communications in advance of the meeting?
Chairman, Commissioners, Alma Ruiz, Senior Office Manager for the record. No email comments were submitted this month.
No, they're on consent. Thank you. The next order of business is the administrative report.
Thank you, Chairman. We will start out with Jose Provencio.
Good afternoon, Chairman, Commissioners. Jose Provencio, Deputy Director, Business Services. Brief you on the, I will be briefing you on the activity for December with respect to utility assistance programs. Slide number 3 will present the activity that was recorded last month, and it typically shows the activity that we've been experienced since the COVID restrictions have been applied. Numbers pretty much present the activity, and I will ask that the slide, we move on to slide number 4, excuse me, presenting the information there with the other associated assistance measures. And then to focus on the FY21 emergency assistance funding, this is the $150,000 that were provided by council authorization in late August of 2020. That balance is, at least that specific funding balance is now at a little over $6,000. Now I added some additional notation here with respect to the city's been receiving reimbursements from the CARES Act and replenishing the funding levels there. And I will provide that detail next month, and to assure the board that there is sufficient funding to assist customers. And we want to conclude the funding and activity that was associated with the emergency assistance. And with the beginning of next month's report, we'll show what the available balances are that include all the reimbursements. Now, the other thing we've also done is, or requested the city for an additional $60,000 from the city fund to assist and fund the levels for bill pay assistance. And the reason being on that is it doesn't appear that our initial plan to reinstitute service shutoffs for non-payment in late March is going to be realized, that we're continuing under the process here, that we will assist our customers. So that would be funded primarily by the reimbursement that we're receiving from CARES Act and the additional $60,000 we requested for city funding. If I can ask the next slide be advanced, you'll see the graphic here associated with the FY21 Emergency Assistance Fund, which leaves us a little over $6,000 left for that one funding level. I'll pause here for any questions before I move on to the next item for the activity in billing and receivables.
Questions? Councilor Bencomo?
Thank you, Mr. Chair, and thank you so much, Mr. Provencio. Yes, just so I'm clear. So the Casa de Peregrinos fund, that's completely gone, correct? And then you'll wait for that for the next budget cycle to be replenished?
Commissioner, Chairman, Commissioner Bencomo, that's correct. The FY21 Casa de Peregrinos funding that started off with the fiscal year 21 has been fully exhausted.
Okay.
And several funding infusions from various sources, mainly from the City Council. So if you look at that one sole program, that will be replenished with the beginning of the fiscal year 22 period.
Okay, and then for the emergency funds, there's about 6,000 left. So, and then you've requested 60,000, right? Is that what you?
That's correct. That's correct. Not to mention the replenishment or refunding that we're receiving from the CARES Act.
Okay.
I will provide that detail by next month with avoiding confusion with what we're seeing and what we've done with the emergency assistance fund for FY21.
Okay, so, you know, I want to make sure that customers have the resources they need during this time, right? We're not out of this, not even close. And so, you know, I want to make sure we have city manager here that I definitely like to be an advocate for replenishing some of this emergency assistance fund. And I don't want to do that without, of course, the guidance or direction of the utility staff. Do you believe that to be necessary?
Chairman, Councilor Bengomo, is the question about the sufficient level to continue assisting our customers?
Yes, about more funds from the city.
Yes, that's the petition, or that's our request for an additional $60,000
Okay.
from the city council. And there's also, and I don't have the detail here, as that replenishment coming in from CARES Act refunding is coming in, fairly often. I will put that up and show that in next month's meeting. And to answer your question directly, is that there is sufficient funding to continue helping our customers.
Okay, great. Thank you so much, Mr. Provencio. I appreciate the clarification.
You're welcome.
Ms. Walsh.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman and Commissioner Bencomo. I just want to reiterate what Joe said. I actually had a conversation with Natalie Green directly and determining what we think we need to carry us through the end of the fiscal year. And in our discussions, meeting the needs of our citizens, as well as a history of what we've been doing as the support, we do believe the 60,000 is sufficient. So when she brings more requests to you, it will be part of that.
Okay, thank you. Any other comments or questions? I understand that the feds have extended the period of the LIHEAP prohibition against cutoffs.
Lila Walsh, Director, and Mr. Chairman, you are correct. That's something we just saw come down the pipe and is part of new legislation.
Thank you. No other questions? Go ahead.
Okay, thank you, Chairman. If I could, we could advance to the next slide. Chairman, Commissioners, slide 6 provides a brief overview of a pilot project that was initiated and conceived and initiated by former Utilities Director, Dr. Garcia, and Interim City Manager, David Maestas. This was back in August. And the scope was to bring in an experienced collections individual. The individual that we were secured was Mr. Victor Ortiz, who has immense business experiences. He's had many collections businesses that have been acquired by the state and other agencies. He's an absolute expert in terms of collections and processes to be an effective, to effectively collect unpaid invoices. Now, the reason we're bringing in the focus on general billing is general billing captures any other type of billing function in Munis that's not accommodated by the utility billing process. Now, general billing is a function and reports to Treasury, and there are certain pieces that are billed in general billing that involve solid waste service, which is your large construction type open top containers. So that piece of solid waste service from utilities is billed to general billing. The other activity that's billed to the general billing is such items as damage to utility and city property. You notice this when a street lamp is, there's collision involving a street lamp, it's destroyed. Well, the claims and the litigation process there, bills that would render a bill to the person responsible. Same thing with unpaid leases and other activity that involves South Central Solid Waste. But it's a catch-all for all other types of billing for the city. And that activity doesn't really, the system in general billing doesn't have the capability to systematically track and report outstanding balances like our UB system. So with this pilot project, we wanted to bring in this Mr. Ortiz set up a process, define the process, the scripting, so that in the long run, or in the short run, really, we're looking at trying to get this thing established and assist Treasury to bring in this function so they can monitor the general billing fund and it'd be a regular recurring effort. As of December, at the end of December, Mr. Ortiz's efforts have collected slightly over $1.5 million for invoices that were out there in the general billing fund. With that, that gives you a briefing of an idea of bringing this type of activity for active collections for invoices in the general bill system. With that, I'll stand by for any questions you may have.
Seeing none, thank you. Go ahead.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Delilah Walsh, Director for Utilities. We'll start with our LCU HR activity report, beginning with vacancies. As you can see, as of January 1st, our vacancies were reduced to 47, which is good progress from us considering holidays and all the other setbacks we've had through the winter. Vacancies by line of business, I'm very happy to report we're finally seeing a net change in vacancies for gas. So keep in mind, gas is our largest line of business. It has the most employees and they have the most specialized employees, meaning they need special certification, licensing, plumbers, tradesmen. And so their positions are a little more difficult to fill. However, we have been doing a lot of work in gas for internal promotion and keep getting people moving in, but we're finally at the point where we're bringing on new employees who are taking over. So in gas, we had a lot of series of retirements and then internal promotion to fill those retirements. And now we're finally at a point where we're bringing on new associates. So they had a really good net change in December to bring us down to 12 from where they typically hovered around 14 or 15. So they've done a really good job. They brought in a lot and they're doing a great job promoting the internal promotion. So we've done a good job there. Next slide, please. Regarding our strategic business plan result, I think we all know we're nowhere near our 6-week goal. Right now, we are taking an average of 45 weeks to get a position filled in utilities. Again, gas is the most challenging. And I'll pick on gas a little bit, not pick on, but just give you so you understand the weight of what we're dealing with is it took us a year to hire 2 gas welders who actually had the pipeline experience, met the skills and abilities that we need in order to operate safely on our pipeline. We got great employees. We had those 2 positions filled before the end of the year, and we've already lost one to another employer. Just got an offer he could not refuse. You can't blame him. And because it's a highly skilled position, my first thought was, oh gosh, it's going to take us another year to fill that welder position. It took us that long to bring in the 2 welders. So we have excellent employees, but because they're excellent employees, we are vulnerable to other employers. And so again, the time it takes for us to hire and to find those right fits really is an expense to the utility, meaning that our current employees have to pick up that slack until we get them filled, and we're filling it. To that end, we are pushing a lot. We're seeing more work in flow. If you look at the chart, the workflow by task owner, 75% of the tasks were sitting in HR waiting for a next step, where 21% were sitting with our staff, and about 4% were in flow, meaning that we've hired somebody, we're just waiting for them to onboard or the position's posted. That's gotten better. And I'll say, when I looked at the report, I believe yesterday, we have 17% of that work is in flow, meaning that we're actually moving forward on those new hires. So we're already seeing improvements in January, but we still have a long way to go. Next slide. So the progress we've made since October of 2019 is that we've filled 67 positions in the utility. And that's pretty significant when you think about it. We're hiring almost a new person every single week in order to meet our needs. As of the 31st, as of December 31st, we were waiting on 6 reclassification requests, 5 new job descriptions, 5 positions were awaiting on release of candidates. That means the applications are present. We just need HR to release the candidates to us so we can evaluate them and schedule interviews. 4 positions are still waiting to be posted to NeoGov. That's our hiring and posting system. 5 positions we're waiting for HR giving us authorization to interview, meaning we've already ranked the candidates, we've selected them. We just need HR to say, yep, go ahead and proceed with interviews. And then 5 positions are waiting PA approval. Again, that means they're sitting at some level of the workflow chain. Utilities has done all our approvals. We just need somebody at the higher end, either HR or above, to press the button and accept that new hire so we can onboard them. So I can say as of December 31st, we've seen great improvement even in those numbers. So in January, we've seen good movement. Some really good news is on January 4th, we finally received consultant responses on a few of those 5 PAQs that we remitted. So it's been about 18 months since we've turned those in. And January 4th, we finally got them back to do review. So Adrian and I will be going through those. I haven't even had a chance to open them. I've got the email, everything's flagged and ready to go. We just need to sit down and actually review and make sure it's what we need in the utility. Some of these PAQs were to create future positions. And what I mean by that is, I'll pick on locating, for example. We have gas locators and water locators. We would like to have just utility locators. And we need to create that job description before we can start restructuring in order to accommodate those types of changes. Next slide. So looking forward, our staffing specialists, again, this is a position we've been waiting on for almost 2 years. Those interviews will be completed in January, I think beginning of February. We'll be able to start bringing somebody in. Our 17 applicants we are reviewing right now are currently city employees. And so that helps us with the onboarding process, and that we only have to transfer them to a department when we select an internal candidate. We are still focusing on staffing while complying with our COVID-19 policies. We have been bringing on some temporary employees, and that's helped out a lot. I'm looking again, the intern journeyman program. I'm really hoping in my heart of hearts, we can start things in the fall. You know, this is something we really, really want to do. To that note, we have 2 of our interns who are on track to graduate, who did graduate in December, actually, and I hope we have them online today. Both gentlemen started out with utilities and worked their way to obtain their degree at Donna Anna Community College. And I'm very, very excited about that. And I'll actually turn it over to Adrienne, and she can introduce and give you a little bit more information.
Hi, Mr. Chairman, Commissioners. Thank you very much. We're really excited because 2 of our interns have graduated. That is Armando Chavez and Eric Medrano. And we're very excited for them. And we do have them here. And I'm going to turn it over then to Armando Chavez. He's showing up under Ronald Barunda, but he will go ahead and give us a little bit of a background on his experience. Take it over, Armando. Thank you.
Hello, council members and Director Delilah Walsh. My name is Armando Chavez, and I recently graduated this December, a few weeks ago, from NMSU with my associate's degree in water technology as part of the internship that's provided by the Las Cruces utilities. In this internship program, what I noticed the most, or what I enjoyed the most, is the variety of work that there is behind the scenes and the variety of work that you pick up by being positioned in different utilities. I learned that there's so much work going on behind the scenes that I never knew before I started working. And then there's so many jobs and opportunities that people have that they never knew that were needed before. So I thought that was pretty cool. There's so much to know and learn. And then right now I am a senior water maintenance worker for meters, valves, and hydrants. And I'm honored to meet all of you, and I'm honored to have this opportunity. And thank you for making this a possibility for people to start young and have a good opportunity to have a good job. Thank you.
Thank you and welcome.
Thank you, Armando. And then we also have Eric Medrano. John Rozek, do you have him to introduce?
This is Eric Medrano. He is working at the Jacob Hands wastewater facility as a wastewater laborer. And excuse me, Eric, why don't you go ahead and introduce yourself and tell us about your experience?
Hello, guys. Good afternoon, council members and, Delilah Walsh, director. My name is Eric Medrano. I was blessed with the experience to, just experience this opportunity with joining the city. It was a whole new thing I was open to. Just getting blessed with opportunities. It was a journey, but honestly, I couldn't ask for nothing more. Really, I can't. I recently graduated from New Mexico State with an associate's in water technology. It was a 2-year program, and through that program, I experienced the lab side of things, like the water side, into meters, valves, and hydrants. And then currently, I'm with the wastewater treatment facility, Jacob's Hands, and I'm just so excited with the opportunity. It just really opened my mind to what goes behind the scenes really, and just what people are doing out there, and people don't get recognized as much, and it's sad, but being a part of that, I really appreciate it all. And what I enjoyed the most was that I got to go into each department and just experience that. And it's really all just helping the environment. They explained to me it's all for the EPA and to provide water for our city, and it's a really big part, because without water it would be nothing. And then without the wastewater plant, sewage would back up into everyone's homes and stuff like that. So I really got a wide scope to actually what I was doing out there. And I don't know, I really enjoy my position. Currently, I'm working for the maintenance at the Jacob's Hands wastewater, and I really like it day to day. I'm always doing something new, working on a valve or fixing something that, the operators are having an issue with. And I don't know, it just really, it makes me happy. It does. I'm really blessed with the opportunity. I'm really honored to meet all of you guys, and I just can't thank you guys enough for blessing me with this opportunity. Thank you.
Thank you.
And thank you and welcome aboard.
Appreciate it. You guys have a good afternoon.
Thank you, Eric. Mr. Chair, Delilah Walsh again, for the record. The internship program, I know Adrian, John, and Carl have worked closely with the interns, and they're all extremely proud of the work that they've done. And we've got some really young kids who made that commitment. And we all know this is not an easy degree. This is not just an associate's degree. They did a lot of work. They know the science, and they're incredibly talented individuals. And so I'm very excited to have them part of our utility. To that end, also, I've asked all our deputy directors to include in next year's budget some positions to expand our internship programs, and particularly our co-op programs. So our interns is a formal program wherein we pay for their education. We give them those opportunities. We employ them during breaks as well as during school. And then we, in exchange, they come and work for us for a few years, at least minimum, but of course we want to keep them forever. But I have asked them to expand our co-op programs. We do have good programs with NMSU where we employ students throughout the school year, but I've asked them to expand to include some of our Las Cruces students who come from other universities. So we have some summer co-op opportunities also. We've got lots of students at New Mexico Tech, Western New Mexico University, who we want to bring into Las Cruces during the summer. So this is a great program, and I'm hoping as we normalize, we'll be able to expand in the fall. With that, I stand for any questions.
Hearing none, thank you. Go ahead.
Thank you. We'll go to the next slide. Regarding our COVID incident management, we're still under the same continuity of operations plan. All our programs continue to remain 100% operational. We are currently in effect under a red county designation. I believe only 30 the 33 New Mexico counties are still in a red designation, and the other 3 are moving to yellow. And of course, those are lower population counties. So our building staffing levels are remaining as is. We're trying not to share offices. We're trying to remote work as many people as we can and continue with our staggered shift reporting. 5 or less allowed to gather with masks and social distancing. The current emergency public health order, the red to green order, essentially is in effect until the end of this month or until January 29th. I believe the governor has another press conference today, if I'm not mistaken, to see what that update will entail. But we will be on the red, yellow to green current order. The city of Las Cruces is sponsoring a red to green campaign, and I've left the link here in this slide if you'd like more information on the red to green campaign. Essentially, we're just encouraging people to do everything they can to help our county move into the yellow and eventually to green. PPE continues to be tracked through the warehouse. I'm no longer tracking it myself, but we do have adequate supplies for all associates. At this point, I have no operational concerns, and our staff is doing a great job getting the work done under these challenges. Next slide, please. The Family First Coronavirus Response Act, particularly that portion of the act that related to expanded FMLA, had expired at the end of the calendar year, of the 2020 calendar year. However, we're still accommodating our staff who have those needs related to their children and being able to still educate them at home while Las Cruces Public Schools remains on remote learning. So this just means that we're still working with people to shift their schedules or to make accommodations where we can. As always, all COVID positive cases or exposure cases are following NMD requirements. We have hired temps to cover staff taking leave, and we're actually going to be retaining a lot of them just because of the vacancies as well as the need for people to be home and the quarantine requirements. We did receive reimbursement funding under the CARES Act to replenish the Utility Assistance Fund, and Joe reported on that. We'll give you a full report next month once we have the accounting taken care of. And we did, as Joe mentioned, request another $60,000. I believe that's it. Is there another slide? No, I didn't think so. I stand for any questions regarding our COVID response.
Seeing none, thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Mr. Chairman, Commissioners, the next thing we're going to talk about is water litigation for the Texas v. New Mexico and Colorado update. The mediator in the case is now ready to hear from the New Mexico amici, of which we are a part of. A date has not been set as yet, but we are excited that they at least want to have discussions with us. The Little Rio Grande Water Users Group, they're trying to set another principal meeting together, of which Las Cruces is part of that. And the main thing we'll probably be talking about is a potential settlement agreement. Here this next month, probably into March, is going to be rather brisk. We're waiting to get some updates from the lawyers next week, and we will give you another update next month. For the Griggs Walnut federal litigation, that one continues the same as last month, with the last private company still out holding, and the briefs are continuing through the lawyers. For the Griggs Walnut West Griggs property, that one, they're working towards mobilizing for vapor testing installation towards the end of January, the first part of February. So all of these 3 are moving along, and if you have any questions, please let me know.
Hearing none, thank you. Go ahead.
Thank you.
Wait, there's a question.
I'm sorry, I almost didn't. It's Commissioner Hardy. I was just curious. I know we're doing pretty good on this cleanup. What kind of times are we looking at probably to finish that? 10 years, 20 years, or what? Or do you, I know it's a fuzzy question to ask you.
Mr. Chairman, Commissioner Hardy, that is not a fuzzy question, although the answer will be a little bit fuzzy. A couple of years ago, it looked like it would be around 14 or 15 additional years. Because the flute wells failed, that kind of seems like that is a little more, not as certain. So as soon as the flute well project is completed, which they're doing now, and the monitoring tests are taken for this year, then the annual report that is going to be out around the June the 30th in there should have a discussion on what is left to pull out and what the expected time frame is with that. So we're looking forward to that. And, you know, we're looking at probably another 14 to 15 years in either case.
Okay, good. Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, go ahead.
Mr. Chairman and Commissioner, I'm Walid Abu Isa, Senior Engineer with the Utilities Technical Support Section. That are going on within our department. Water service line patch replacement, project number 19-20-094A. Treville Water and Gas Improvement Project number 19-20-138. And the Talavera Low Pressure Gas Distribution Network 3A, project number 19-20-124. Next slide, please. For the water service line and patch replacement, project number 19-20-094A, the contractor on this project is Ferguson Construction Company. The contract amount is $360,082.44. The contract time is 120 working days. Project started on November 2nd, 2020, and the estimated completion is April 28, 2021. The percent completed on this project as far as construction goes is 29%. As far as this project, there's about 100 water service lines that have been identified to be fixed. As you may all know, that we had the advanced meter infrastructure AMI in service for the city of Las Cruces. So by monitoring the water meters, there were some excessive usage of water to these addresses. So that's what triggered further investigation. So we had at the utilities department send a leak detection crew to investigate with the sounding devices, electronic equipment to detect the leaks. And there were about 100 services that have been identified, which are included in this project. Now, the construction of this project have been divided into 3 phases. We already gave the first phase of 29 services, which were completed as of last week. Now the contractor started with the second phase of 40 service lines that they need to work on. Before I move to the next project, do you have any questions on this project?
Hearing none, go ahead.
Next slide, please. The next project is the Treville Water and Gas Line Improvement, project number 19-20-138. This slide shows the map of the project on Treville Road. And this project included installation of a gas pipe and a water line Next slide, please. The contractor on this project, J29 Enterprise LLC, contract cost $103,599.90. Contract time 30 working days. This project started October 19, 2020, and original estimated completion date was December 7, 2020. However, because this project goes along with the ANAMDOT project, that we had to give the contractor, our contractor, J29, a suspension letter to allow for the state to come and pave the street so we can go back and do the colors around valves, water valves, and the concrete colors around valves. So as a matter of fact, this slide, since it has been presented as of January 5th, shows 97%, but as of last week, this project has been completed as the state paved this road. And our contractor came back and did these concrete colors. Well, the reason we brought this this project back, we had some questions from Commissioner Hardy about the continuation of work when the ANAMDOT suspended their contract due to positive cases within their crews. We have two different crews. The city contractor does not interact with the state contractors. So our contractor, J29, kept going and completed our project on time. And when we did not have any cases of positive cases of COVID-19 within J29 or the city inspectors and staff with that project. Any questions about this project?
Commissioner Hardy, did that satisfy your concerns?
Commissioner Hardy, this is Alma Ruiz. You were muted.
Yes, I was fighting to get to the chart to unmute myself. No, I was just curious how that had come in light of the fact that the main construction work on the highway there had stopped and all. But sounds like it's doing fine. That road Treville, I guess, is still closed, or are we waiting for the Department of Transportation to finish that?
Chairman and Commissioner Hardy, actually the state, I heard that the state, they opened the street 2 days ago.
Oh, okay. Thank you very much. No, I appreciate it.
You're welcome, sir. Yes, sir. Next slide, please. Can you forward to the next slide, please? Next project is Talavera Low Pressure Gas Distribution Network, Phase 3A, project number 19-20-124. This slide shows the map for the project, which is south of Dripping Spring, east and north of Soledad Canyon Road. Next slide, please. The contractor on this project is Smith Co. Construction. The contract cost $3,060,000, $60,000, $433.60. $3,060,433.60. Sorry about that. The contract time is 214 working days. Contract started on August 10, 2020. And the estimated completion is June 17, 2021. There are 38% completed on the construction and 36% on the payment. 36% on the payment. There are about 98% of the 4-inch polyethylene line pipeline have been installed that consist of 13,787 linear feet. And there are 7,574 linear feet of the 2-inch polyethylene line that has been installed, which that consists of 12%. And there are 31 of 3/4 of an inch stub outs that consist of 17% of the overall stub outs that needs to be installed in this project that have been installed. And with that, I conclude my presentation, and I will stand for any questions that you may have.
Commissioner Hardy.
Yes, I had a question about the one other project I saw. You were going to do a gas line up through or this Mission Bell, I believe. I saw that last time or something. Has that project been started yet, or when is that planned to start?
Chairman and Commissioner Hardy, yes, sir. Actually, as a matter of fact, we are in the final on the stage, the phase of procuring this project. It may start in February. It's anticipated to start sometime in February next month.
Okay, I thought it was soon. Thank you.
Yes, sir.
Anyone else? Okay, thank you very much. Let's go
Thank
ahead.
you.
Okay, the next item of business is resolutions. The first resolution is resolution number 2021 LCU 020, a resolution authorizing Las Cruces utility staff to incorporate the water rights conveyance schedule to the Las Cruces Utilities Water Service Tariff. Motion to approve.
So
Commissioner
moved.
Johnson, so move.
Okay, Commissioner Johnson moves. A second.
Commissioner Hardy, second.
Commissioner Hardy seconds. Thank you. Discussion.
Chairman, Commissioners, Jose Provencio, Deputy Director, Business Services. Resolution number 20-21-LCU 020 seeks approval to incorporate the initial water rights conveyance schedules approved by Council in the year 2000 into our water service tariff. With this action, we've incorporated all pertinent service conditions, terms and price schedules, meter connection charges into the tariff and into one document which relates to water service. Water rights conveyance fees are part of the new water connection process, along with impact fees and any applicable new meter charges. Water rights that are serving or residing with new development are conveyed to LCU at the time the property connects to our water system. The fees were established back in the year 2000, and with this action, we have all fees and charges in one reference point for water service. Stand by for any questions you may have.
Okay, hearing no questions, ready for a vote. Vice Chair Archuleta.
Aye.
Thank you. Commissioner Bencomo,
Yes.
Commissioner Carmichael, probably need to unmute. Commissioner Carmichael.
Yes.
Thank you. Commissioner Hardy,
Yes.
Commissioner Johnson,
Aye.
Commissioner Sorg,
Yes.
and the chair, yes. Thank you. The next resolution is resolution number 2021 LCU 023, a resolution approving a statement of reasonable notice for meetings. Move to approve.
Archuleta, yes. Aye.
Second, Sorg.
Okay, Archuleta moves and Sorg seconds. Thank you. Discussion.
Good afternoon, Chairman, Commissioners. Alma Ruiz, Senior Office Manager for the Utilities, for the record. Resolution 2021 LCU 023 is recommending approving a statement of reasonable notice for meetings. On an annual basis, the City Council is required to pass a resolution to determine reasonable notice of meetings of the City Council and the City Council appointed commissions, committees, and boards pursuant to New Mexico statutes annotated 1978, section 10-15-1D, which I'll refer to going forward as NMSA. This year, City Council approved their resolution 21-078 on December 7th, 2020, or last year. The Attorney General's compliance guide under NMSA section 10-15-1B, the Open Meetings Act, is applicable to any public body that will formulate public policy, discuss public business, or take action. This includes any agency or authority of any county, municipality, district, or any political subdivision. Therefore, it is proposed that the Las Cruces Board of Commissioners approve Resolution 20-21-LCU 023, identifying regular LCU board meetings generally held the second Thursday of every month at 3 p.m. And if a work session or special meetings are required, that they also generally be held the second Thursday of every month prior to the start of the regular LCU board meeting, at which time the regular board meeting will start immediately following the work session or special meeting, as we did today. And that a reasonable notice for regular board meetings, work sessions, and/or special meetings shall require the issuance and posting of an agenda prior to 72 hours of the time a meeting is scheduled, and be posted on the City of Las Cruces website, as well as posted on bulletin boards at City Hall and the Administration Building bulletin boards. All other meetings which may be called as informational purposes, at which no action is to be taken, shall be held after written notice is posted on the city website no later than 12 noon of the day of such meeting, or 4 hours before such meeting, whichever is greater. And in an emergency wherein it is necessary for the public peace, health, and safety and welfare, a meeting may be called with as much notice as may be possible under the conditions. Before you is a list of all the meetings for 2021. You will notice that we have one Wednesday on November 10th, 2020, and this is because the city has a closure for Veterans Day on the scheduled board meeting of November 11th. After discussion with the chair, he selected Wednesday, November the 10th as the proposed date for the meeting. Each year, staff will bring a resolution to the board to take action approving a statement of reasonable notice for the meetings. And I stand for any questions you may have.
Okay.
I see Commissioner Johnson has his hand up.
Okay, Commissioner Johnson, please.
Yeah, I just wonder, we're approving this reasonable notice on the same day that we hold the first meeting, does that create a logical inconsistency that we have to address, or we're we're not within the time limits before the meeting, obviously, but I'm not sure that applies to this resolution.
Sure. So I listed it as today's meeting for consistency. However, last year we listed the January meeting. I probably should have listed the January in 2022 like I did last year, but that date would be, give me a second and I'll tell you what that date would be. January the 13th, 2022. However, we do fall under the umbrella of the City Council resolution, which approves all board meetings that they've appointed. This is identifying specific dates if you wish.
Well, should we amend this to put in the one for January of 2022?
We definitely could.
Okay, Ms. Walsh, you had something?
Yes, thank you, Mr. Chairman. Delilah Walsh, Director of Utilities. I just want to clarify, pursuant to the Open Meetings Act, our obligation is simply to state what dates of the month the meetings will occur, and that's what we've achieved through the resolution. The resolution automatically exists until the board approves a new one. So even including with the PowerPoint, it is accurate in the sense that we are following the currently adopted resolution, which was in the prior year. So we are in compliance with the Open Meetings Act, and that resolution will stay in effect until we meet our annual obligation to update. And really the annual obligation is only to give proper notice to the public in order to meet that portion of the law.
Okay. I'm looking up at the desk where our city attorney should be sitting to ask what is the most appropriate step to take now. And as the situation evolves, she could care less.
We do have Mr. Cabello with us online, so if he wishes to unmute and weigh on his opinion, that would be great at this time.
Okay, please, Mr. Cabello, tell us whether we can proceed with what we have or whether we need to formally amend the schedule that we have on slide 22.
Okay, with the schedule, we can actually amend that, and it wouldn't be that big of a problem to do that right now.
Okay, well then I will entertain a motion to amend this resolution to include a date at the end of Thursday, January 13th, 2022.
I'll make a motion to make that change for
Second,
notice for
Commissioner Johnson.
January 2022.
Sorg moves and Johnson seconds. Thank you. Discussion of that amendment. Hearing none, we will proceed to a vote on the amendment. Vice Chair Archuleta.
Aye.
Commissioner Bencomo.
Yes.
Commissioner Carmichael.
Yes.
Commissioner Hardy.
Yes.
Commissioner Johnson.
Aye.
Commissioner Sword.
Yes.
And the chair, yes. Now, is there further discussion on the main motion that is adopting resolution number 2021 LCU 023 now as amended? Hearing none, ready for a vote. Vice Chair Archuleta.
Aye.
Commissioner Bencomo.
Yes.
Commissioner Carmichael.
Yes.
Commissioner Hardy.
Yes.
Commissioner Johnson.
Aye.
Commissioner Sword,
Yes.
and the chair, yes. And let me apologize, because I'm looking at a screen that I don't control, I can't see who's on the line. And so I didn't know that we had our city attorney with us. Now, the next resolution is resolution number 2021 LCU 024. A resolution awarding a contract for the 2020 Griggs Walnut Annual Report to Daniel B. Stevens and Associates, Inc. of Albuquerque, New Mexico, for a total contract award of $174,122.76.
Move to approve.
Thank you. And a second?
Commissioner Hart, second.
Okay, Sorg moves, Hardy seconds. Thank you. Discussion.
Mr. Chairman, Commissioners, Adrian Widmer, Interim Assistant Utilities Director, thank you very much. As you know, Daniel B. Stevens and Associates has been the engineer of record since 2009. And what they'll be doing is reporting on the progress made toward achieving our report standards in accordance with EPA. They'll be completing groundwater, hydrologic, and water quality evaluation and how to optimize the system. They'll be making sure that all permitting and regulatory activities have been taken care of. There'll be a whole monitoring program evaluation that is going to be incorporating the new flute well replacement and rehabilitation project. They'll also be providing a summary and a recommendation. As you can see, it shows all the prices there. That includes $153,104.40 for the annual report, includes the New Mexico gross receipts, taxes, and contingencies for a full award of $174,122.76 for an award that we are requesting. Thank you, and I'll stand for any questions.
Okay, any questions? Commissioner Hardy.
Yes, I was just curious, is this pretty much a requirement for the feds or the state that we do this kind of report, or is this just something we're doing for good business practice?
Mr. Chairman, Commissioners, Adrian Widmer, Interim Assistant Utilities Director. As part of the consent decree, we are required to turn in an annual report. So this is part of the requirements that we need to do on a yearly basis, sir.
I thought so. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Any other comments or questions? Hearing none, ready for a vote. Vice Chair Archuleta.
Aye.
Commissioner Bencomo.
Yes.
Commissioner Carmichael.
Yes.
Commissioner Hardy.
Yes.
Commissioner Johnson.
Aye.
Commissioner Sword.
Yes.
And the chair, yes. Thank you. That concludes
Thank you.
the resolutions for the day. The next item of business is old business.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Delilah Walsh, Director. We do have a few items in old business as well as new business. And the first being the naming of our sewer truck. And I will turn that over to John Mrazek.
There I go. I found the button. This is John Mrazek, Wastewater Deputy Director. And as you may remember, there was a contest with the Las Cruces Elementary Schools to name our sewer inspection camera. Because of COVID, the naming contest selection was postponed. We have included in your packets the 5 submissions for you to consider and to vote today.
Alma, if you'll run that vote.
Sure. Chair, did you want to call on the committee, or did you want me to?
Go ahead.
Okay. We will start with Vice Chair Archuleta. You have one of 5 choices here on the screen. You're muted. Sorry, Alma Ruiz, Senior Office Manager for the Utilities Department. There you go.
Waldo.
Waldo. Thank you. We are now going to go to Commissioner Bencomo.
Rubble.
Rubble. Thank you. Commissioner Carmichael.
Rubble.
Rubble?
Yes.
Okay. We will go to Commissioner Hardy.
Oh, I like Suey.
Suey, thank you. And Commissioner Johnson.
Yeah, I like Suey also.
Good. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Commissioner Sorg.
Rubble.
Rubble, okay. And Vice Chair Little.
I'll vote for Rubble as well.
Rubble, okay. Rubble received 3 votes, so I'll turn it over to John Mrozek.
John, where are you?
If not, I'll just say that we will work with the elementary. We want to identify which elementary school submitted the name Rubble. We purposely left all the elementary schools out just to have a non-biased vote, but because now we have the information, we can share with you the winning school. And bear with me here for a second here, unless John has it in his fingertips and it's available, but I am now.
I think we lost John. I saw
I'm
him.
back.
Okay, no
I'm back.
problem.
Oh, there you
I
are.
am.
Okay, great, because I had it here. Okay, go ahead, John.
Okay, what am I looking for again here? I didn't hear the first part
That's
of it.
okay. Mr. Leo, can you tell them which school Mr. Leo is from that submitted the
Yes,
winning
I
name
can.
of Rubble?
Yes, I can. Leo is, where is it? There he is. Leo is from Hillrise Elementary.
Okay. They keep submitting winning names. They submitted
Yes.
Aguacito last year.
So Rubble is our winner then.
Yes.
Oh, very interesting. Okay.
John Mrozek will work with giving the winning class or what we did last time was we gave a little plaque to them with the winning name. And so we'll continue that trend with this. We may come up with a little mini sewer truck and we'll have the name Rubble on it to be able to give to the class. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Chair, Delilah Walsh again. Next, we have Robin Lawrence, who will give you an update. She's our Deputy Director of Solid Waste on our reroute.
Good afternoon, Chairman, Commissioners. Robin Lawrence, Deputy Director for Solid Waste. So we launched our new solid waste routes on Monday, January 4th. And prior to the launch of the new routes, we fully utilized almost every form of communication to get the word out to our residential customers that their days may be changing. So we ran newspaper articles, had PIO radio announcements, had bill stuffers, social media posts, and individually addressed letters to residential customers. As with any change, not only our customers, but staff is having to get used to the new routes. And our residential and commercial drivers have been learning their new routes last week and this week. And they're working on fine tuning the sequence in which they want to pick up their containers and getting it set up in Routeware. So it's definitely a process, but we are moving forward and hope to have everything smoothed out within the next couple of weeks. I'll stand for any questions.
No questions. Go ahead, please.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Again, Delilah Walsh. And next we have Alma Ruiz, who will recap on our strategic business plan survey results.
Afternoon, Chairman, Commissioners. Alma Ruiz, Senior Office Manager for Utilities for the record. As you know, one of our key strategic results under the line of business for Office of the Director and the Program Administration was by 2020, 80% of board, commission, and city council members will report that they receive the information they need to make informed decisions. We sent out the surveys and we received 7 responses, which exceeded our goal of 80%, with all coming back as yes, that they receive information. So we're at 100%. And we thank those who participated in the survey. I stand for any questions you may have.
Hearing none, go ahead. Thank you. I guess we all pass.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Again, Delilah Walsh, Utilities Director. I do want to report that due to COVID restrictions and our inability to gather, as you may know, we had to do our annual awards a little bit different this year. So first of all, thank you very much to both Chairman Little and Vice Chairman Archuleta for your opening and closing remarks. What we did this year is we produced a virtual video and presentation and shared that with all staff through our utilities channel, and acknowledge those who received awards this year. And I'm very pleased to share with you this year a recap of those awards on this slide. Our customer service award this year went to our field services team, and they worked going into people's homes throughout the entire pandemic. They were some of the first to be the ones who set the example of how we interact with customers who may be COVID positive. And that was in early March. And so they continue to do the relights and the connections and customer requested disconnections, did a great job, and were our recipients. Our Excellence Through Innovation Award went to Joshua Dominguez with the Solid Waste Department. And our Cost Effective Saving Solutions went to Ronald Burunda with our water line of business. And the board award was to Veronica Lucio, who is with our customer outreach section. And she actually helped do a lot of the translations for our Everbridge notification system from English to Spanish, and our Utility Hawk system, and several things that we were doing through the utility. So if you haven't seen that presentation, internally it was easy to access. Externally, I think I have to send you a link from my own Google Drive, but if you need that, we can coordinate that through Alma. But we are planning to do something in lieu of the banquet itself, and we're meeting and brainstorming on how we can make that happen for our employees. We still want to reward and thank all of them for what they do, but we really wanted to get the annual award announcements out before the end of the calendar year. So thank you very much again for your participation in that, and can't be more proud of the associates we have working for us. I believe that sums up our old business, Mr. Chair. And if you don't have any questions, we can move on to new business.
Well, I have one that probably fits into old business. We, the Utilities Department and Board, have been beating the drums for a attorney with utility background and expertise. And I was wondering if there had been any progress toward identifying that position and filling it.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Again, Delilah Walsh for the record. That is an item I have on my agenda when I speak with the city manager. It's not something that we've pursued right now. We're currently in the new budget cycle and we have those discussions. One thing that's happening now is the allocation study related to the services that the utility and all the other departments receive from the city administration. I will say, as of yet, Rob Cabello has been really, really responsive to our needs and available pretty much at our fingertips. And so we've had a good relationship there. And I understand the need, and we've discussed this, the need for a utility specific attorney, particularly when we start moving into more water rights issues and transmission issues. But it's not something we've pursued yet, but I do have it on my agenda to discuss with the city manager.
Thank you. Okay, go ahead for new business.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. First of all, I want to turn it over to Joe Provencio, who's going to talk about the gas rate review and outlay to the UCAG.
Thank you, Delilah. Chairman, Commissioners, Jose Provencio, Business Services, Deputy Director, Business Services. Next month, February 10th, the UCAG will be meeting, and it will be the initial start point for the gas utility rate review. Order of business for that meeting would be, number one, determining who wants, which individuals want to be in the working group. It'll be the working group that will be meeting or virtually meeting with this LCU staff and the consultant to evaluate, look over the cost of service model for the gas utility. The other points of item and discussion will be the timing as to when the revenue requirement, the cost of service will be shared with both the UCAG and the board, and discuss the usual strategies of getting an effective customer outreach strategy out there now that we're still in a COVID environment, which with the anticipation by now it would have been resolved. But those are things that we will be discussing and kicking off that initial point for the gas utility rate review. With that, it'll give you that briefing. If you have any specific questions, I'll stand by.
Okay, I have just one. Presumably the UCAG will also be meeting remotely. Is that right?
Chairman, Commissioners, that's correct. Well, we'll take the head count. I know that the UCAG committee will exceeds the 5 individuals in a room limit. We may have a little bit more flexibility with the working group. We'll see how that works out.
Okay, but the organizational meeting in February will be remote.
That's correct. Yes, sir.
Okay, thank you so much.
All right.
Any other questions on that? Okay, we look forward to seeing that one get underway.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. For the record, Delilah Walsh. On that note, Alma has information for you regarding training related to the rate setting process and our responsibilities. Alma?
Thank you, Chair, Commissioners. Alma Ruiz, Office Manager Senior for the Utilities. For the record, we have contracted again with Dr. Gigax and Dr. Blank to be the consultants to provide the rate setting training. It's going to be over a 2-day period, February 4th and 5th. February 4th will run from 9 a.m. to 3 p.m. with a lunch break, and February 5th will go half a day from 9 a.m. to noon. The course outline will be to review the rate setting process, the revenue requirement formulas, cash need methodology, revenue requirements adjustments, and the concept of the test year, the overview of the natural gas transmission and distribution, load characteristics for class cost of service studies, steps in class cost of service studies, the functionality, classification, and allocation, as well as the rate design. And I know most of you have already participated in one or more of these trainings. However, it never hurts for a refresher, especially since it is Zoom. We also want to invite and extend new LCU board members to participate if their schedule allows. And we already have 18 participants, utility staff, as well as the chief of staff in the city manager's office that have signed up for this training. So if you are interested in participating in the training, just send me an email and I will send you out the Zoom link for this upcoming training that we have. And I stand for any questions you may have.
Mr. Chair.
Commissioner Sword, go ahead.
Yeah, would that include an invite?
Yes, sir.
Okay, that's what I wanted. Thank you.
Sure.
Any other comments or questions? Certainly, if you haven't had a rate setting training, it would be really well to attend this. It's pretty straightforward once you've gone through it, but until you do, you wonder just exactly what in the world people are doing.
I agree, Mr. Chair. It's very valuable.
And both Gigax and Blank are good lecturers and good guys. That helps. Go ahead.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Again, Delilah Walsh for the record. And I'd like to reiterate what you said. Dr. Blank and Dr. Gigax are actually renowned throughout the country and are asked to advise. I think they've actually been outside of the country even for some of their advisory roles. So we're really lucky to have that institute here at NMSU for the public utilities. And so it is excellent information, and I highly encourage you to contact ALMA to attend. I do want to let you know that the New Mexico State Auditor's Office has officially released the City of Las Cruces CAFR, the financial report and audit, annual audit for fiscal year 2020. So we will be working on the post-audit utility valuation that was requested last year by the board, and specifically for Vice Chairman Archuleta. We'll be working on that to give a presentation based on the CAFR. There was one finding related to the utility. However, it was not the utility's finding. So it had to do with utility billing, but it was because of the way the cashier's office under the Treasury Department handled some of their payments. So it's related to utility bills, but nothing that was under the purview of the utility. So we're really happy. It was a great improvement for the city of Las Cruces as a whole. And we'll be moving forward on that. My last new business essentially is that the city manager's office has released their new organizational structure, and the utility director and myself will be reporting directly to the city manager. So as you know, when Bill Studer was the interim city manager, he put utilities under a temporary reporting position under one of the assistant city managers, but the city manager has his executive team on board, and the reporting relationship has reverted back to where it always has been, where utilities reports directly to the city manager. With that, I don't have any other items for new business, but I stand for any questions.
Are there any questions? Commissioner Hardy.
Yes, I wanted to thank whoever set the meeting up better this time. I've been having trouble getting into the Zoom meeting, and this was very easy, and to get into the meeting and also to get the paperwork I needed. And first time I wasn't frustrated, so I appreciate that very much. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you very much, Delilah Walsh for the utilities. Thank you very much. That would be Alma Ruiz and her staff. They've done a great job making the conversion to Zoom and now to iCompass. So good job to that team.
Okay, thank you. This has all worked very well. If that's it for new business, the next item is board's general discussion. Any member of the board care to speak?
Mr. Chair.
Go ahead, Commissioner Bencomo.
Thank you. I don't have much. I honestly just wanted to say huge kudos to whoever designed the front cover of the LCU annual report. I thought it was a great, paying a great honor to Dr. Garcia, and I wanted to name that I thought it was a great cover. So thank you for that.
Okay, Any other board comments? We do not have any kind of a any kind of a work session scheduled for February. So the next meeting in February will be a regular board meeting beginning at 3 o'clock on February 11th. And if there's no other business to come before the board today, I will entertain a motion to adjourn.
Commissioner Hardy, motion to adjourn.
Thank you. And a second?
I'll second it, Sword.
Okay, Hardy moves, Sword seconds. Those in favor, unmute and say aye.
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 And those opposed, the meeting is adjourned. Thank you all. Now, I never got an annual report, by golly. I just now realized that.
We will correct that right now. And we'll
Thank you.
actually send out the copies to all the other board members as well. We've had a transition in staff, and so we are a little behind schedule on that. Thank you.
Okay,
Mhm.
good
I think
enough.
I got one in my office, Alma, or was it Delilah that said that?
Yeah, apparently the city councilors got theirs, but the
Yes,
board members haven't. Okay, now I understand.
yes.